It's exactly 1 year since I made a video on how I store my tomato for a year and it won't go bad. And I got a lot of questions. I am displaying some of these questions on the screen. So in today's video, I'm going to be showing you with proper explanation on how that is achievable. Yes, guys, I am going to show you how I process and store my tomatoes that can last up to a year without going bad. I mentioned in my previous video that I always go for Derica tomato. That is the species I go for. It's called Derica. A lot of people ask me what Derica tomatoes look like, and I am here to answer that question. If you go to the market, those round, juicy, strong tomatoes are called Derica tomatoes. They have very little moisture content in them compared to those long ones. A lot of people were also wondering why I drained some of the liquid from my tomatoes after boiling it for the first time. I drained some of the liquid because I do not have enough bottles to store my tomatoes. And secondly, I don't want my tomatoes to be overcooked, because if I want my tomatoes to dry to a very thick paste on fire, I will have to cook for at least 3 to 4 hours, considering the quantity I am working with. So in a nutshell, draining some liquid out of your tomato, not all the liquid though, is totally optional. And yes, there's still some vitamin C left in them. Some people also asked me for how long should they boil the tomatoes before sieving. I boil mine for 10 to 15 minutes before sieving. Some people wanted to know why I did not blend the tomatoes together with the pepper. This is because I know I'll be sieving out some liquid from the tomatoes. I usually add the pepper mix when I want to cook the tomatoes the second time. So if you are cooking yours at once, there's no point blending them separately. This bottle of tomato you are seeing is from my last year's production, meaning this tomato has been in this bottle for 1 whole year. And it is still very intact. It is very okay. At this point, we are done cooking our tomatoes the second time. I cooked it for roughly 30 minutes. Like I mentioned, I do not want to overcook my tomato paste. It is time for me to sterilize my bottles, because this is one of the most important parts of this tomato processing. Some of you wanted to know if boiling the bottles is important before putting in your tomatoes, and the answer is yes, a very big yes. Sterilizing your bottles helps eliminate germs from your bottles. Even though you're going to wash it with soap and water, boiling it with salt helps in eliminating every germ in your bottle. This brings me to the most asked question on my last tomato video. Can we use plastic containers to preserve our tomatoes? The answer is no. If you must use plastic to store your tomatoes, kindly refrigerate them or freeze them. And also, you cannot boil the plastic because it is going to melt. A lot of you also wanted to know how to source for these bottles. I personally sourced for some of these bottles from shawarma vendors. If you have caterers around you or even restaurants, for a token, they can give you these bottles. Also, there are some vendors online that sells these jars. Please remember to sterilize everything you're using at this point, from the cup to the bowl to the tongue, that is this barbecue tongue, to everything you're using, because any little mistake, any slight mistake can contaminate your end result. Remember to be very careful when handling these bottles, because they are extremely hot. They've been boiling in that water for over 10 minutes. For those of you that wanted to know if you must work with the tomatoes while it is hot, the answer is no. Please work with a temperature that is convenient for you. As you can see, in my own case, I used the same pot to boil the tomatoes, and that same pot was what I used to boil my bottles. That gave my tomatoes time to cool off a bit, even though it is hot, but it is not so hot that I will get burnt while working with it. Some of you wanted to know if it is possible to use from these tomatoes and then close the lid back. Kindly note that if you do so, your tomatoes will spoil. Once you open these bottles, note that you cannot store them for long again. You can either pour vegetable oil on the surface of the remaining tomato in your bottle and use within 3 to 5 days, or you turn the contents into a plastic and then refrigerate or freeze for future use. Another thing most of you wanted to know was, for how long did I boil these jars with the tomatoes in them? I boiled these jars for like 30 minutes. Note that I boiled them in batches because I wanted them to be submerged in the water. That is, I wanted them to be under that water. Once you take your tomatoes out, kindly ensure they cool down completely before storing them. There are some factors that can make your tomatoes go bad, like if you do not tightly close the lid of your bottles or you do not properly sterilize your containers. So guys, this is everything I got. I've not counted the bottles, but it is a lot, maybe 20 something or 30 something bottles for these big Bama bottles. However, I also got some leftovers that I'm going to freeze. So this is a plastic container. This is already freezing. You can see from this part, it's already freezing. So if it's in a plastic container, do well to freeze or refrigerate. But as long as it is in this bottle, as long as you make sure the lid is like this, it is not going to spoil. The only time it will spoil is after you open it, you scoop out the quantity you want to use, and then there's leftover. You have to refrigerate it, else it will spoil. So what I usually do is, when I scoop what I want to use and there's like little left in the bottle, I just pour in vegetable oil and keep. Maybe I know I'm going to use it in like 2 to 3 days time, but if I know I'm going to use it maybe within a week or so, I just open, after I scoop out what I want to use, I turn the rest in a plastic container and then I freeze. I'll be tagging the last video under this post. Kindly check it out for better understanding. Do not forget to like this video, share and drop a comment. Let me know if you'll be trying this out. So this is how I just store mine. I have some in the carton here, as you can see. This is my store, and I just have some like this. So when I'm sure, like after 2 weeks or 3 weeks, when I'm sure that it is perfect, it is fine, then I just put them in a carton. I seal permanently, or depending on when I want to use them. Until I see you guys in my next video, as usual, your own no go spoil. And hey, happy new year. Bye.